purpose of the OTD or computer-aided design allows us for the easier development of products and product management integration. Okay? From the word easier development, diba, what are the difference between the conventional and then the latest kumbaga na ginagamit natin, which is AutoCAD, right? So before, if we try to create a certain template or a certain drawing, for example, we need to create that for like 2 hours, 3 hours, or even further than that, right? So kasi I think ngayon hindi na kayo naka-experience ng drawing 1 sa college, right? Yung tinatawag nating engineering drawing. So you don't have a experience on that particular subject. So basically, before, that is a 3-hour subject, and based on my observation, 3 hours before is not enough for a single template, right? Kasi ano ba yung mga ginagamit before? So we're using technical pen, we're using different drawing equipments and some other things, right? But for now, ang ginagamit lang natin is simply a computer and an application. So the difference is quite heavy when it comes to time, all right? So dito pumapasok yung easier development na tinatawag natin of products. What do you mean by products here, right? So we call it products because this is the certain plans that the engineers produce, right? For example, in your case, as a CPA student, so hindi lang naman siya nagpo-focus sa mga plano or dun sa mga drawing na naka-align sa CE or architecture. So we cannot invalidate those things na, for example, in your part, you can create drawings as well in lieu to your profession as a computer engineer, di ba? So hindi naman nawawala yung essence na nagdo-drawing pa rin kayo on this matter, right? So you need to draw some certain figures, for example, small scale man yan or large scale, right? So large scale, for example, yung design ng computer, what are the add-ons, what are the internal or external feature of those designs na gagawin nyo, because that's what engineers do naman, di ba? So to design things and to innovate things, right? And then of course about the product management integration. So what are the idea of having this term right here, yung tinatawag nating integration, di ba? I think meron naman kayong subject na integral calculus. So the idea when it comes to product management integration is that we mix up things, di ba? We innovate things. For example, kumbaga yung na-design last month or last year, so meron tayong bagong input, kumbaga i-innovate natin. Kumbaga ganun yung idea when it comes to those things. So it makes us easier as a designer to develop and to integrate some information and some innovation to the current design kung yun yung plano natin, right? And of course, it also allows us for greater modeling and even provides a basis for virtual networking, right? So from the term greater modeling, the main issue when it comes to the manual drawing before, of course, is the on how you stroke the pen, how you use the technical pen, how you use the pencils, right? Mechanical pen, some other drawing equipments as well. So hindi naman kasi lahat is super proficient when using those instruments, diba? So hindi lahat is steady yung kamay, hindi lahat is steady, or I mean, hindi pasmado pala, right? So kasi may mga gumagamit tayo ng paper, diba? So basically, if our hands is wet, right? So nakaka-apekto rin yun kung ano yung magiging product natin or yung magiging output nung ginagawa nating design, or we call this as modeling, right? So even provides us a basis for virtual networking. So this is basically about diba? Visualization, or of course the aesthetics of our design, okay? So when it comes kasi to coloring before, diba? So we use pastels, we use different shades of pens, just to give a vibrant color to the product that we're using or to the design that we are creating. But in this case, napakabilis na gumamit or napakabilis ng mag-input ng mga products na yun or yung mga design na yun, right? Because we can easily download templates. What I mean by templates is those things na ini-input natin basta-basta yung available na sa market, right? So for example, di ba, if we try to create a certain document, ang dami na nating template na pwedeng makuha from internet, di ba? Kasi ang dami nang nagawa before. So this is the same idea when we try to create a design right here. So madami ng kumbaga available na ideas na pwede natin pang i-input dito to give a virtual virtual vibrant, for example, a more desirable look to our designs. Okay. So other things here. So in the engineering world, CAD is extremely important and widely used to design and develop products to be used by consumers. So basically, CAD is quite outdated sa ibang bansa, right? So if you know that. But here in the PH, CAD is, basically, ito na yung pinaka top of the line na ginagamit natin when it comes to certain designs or simple designs. Okay? Kumbaga ito na yung pinaka-core nung computer-aided drafting na tinatawag natin, yung AutoCAD. But in other countries, for example, in grade A countries like Singapore, US, Canada, or some other countries as well, they are using BIM or building information modeling, right? So if you know that term, basically gumagamit siya ng AutoCAD. Kumbaga branch lang tong AutoCAD. Okay? So yun yung isa sa pinaka-abundant na ginagamit na sa ibang bansa. But here in the Philippines, we're using extremely AutoCAD, or most of the designers, most of the drafters, so we call in, is using AutoCAD or some other applications as well from Autodesk. Okay? So what I mean by extremely important dito, okay? So let's relate this into real-time scenarios, or basically dun sa mga naka-experience na nag-take ng AutoCAD. Okay? So if you try to search kasi, for example, a certain job offer from a engineering firm, or basta sa engineering, right? So one of the qualifications always is you must have an idea on how to use certain applications when it comes to computer-aided drafting, right? So I'm not saying na ganito yung line ng profession nyo, because I think you are more focused on programming and other things about computers. But this is one of the main core of the engineering proper. Okay? Isa to sa kumbaga hindi nawawala na classification or not classification. Qualification for an engineering graduate to have a knowledge when it comes to this case. Okay? Kasi when we try to relate this, for example, if you have an idea before na merong technology students sa RTU, kasi for example, in your case, BS kayo, BS Computer Engineering. Before, merong Computer Engineering Technology na tinatawag. As well as in CE, for example, in my department, so meron kaming tinatawag na Civil Engineering Technology. Sila lang yung 3 years. And then the other programs is 5 years. But in your case right now, I think 4 years kayo. So those guys or those students na graduate ng 3 years or in technology, hindi sila pwedeng mag-board exam, right? So ibig sabihin, kumbaga nandun na yung limitation nung degree na nakuha nila in 3 years. So kumbaga andun yung stigma na parang namamaliit sila before kasi parang graduate lang sila ng technology. But there's this guy na, I just want to say this right now, there's this guy na graduate lang siya ng technology. Don't get me wrong about the term lang, but graduate siya ng technology. And then, what he did is that he studied computer-aided drafting. So nag-aral siya ng iba't ibang application like AutoCAD, Autodesk Revit, and other application as well when it comes to this profession, yung designing, right? And then, what happens is that, of course, mas malawak yung knowledge niya about this thing. And we all know that today, di ba, nagre-rely na tayo sa technology. And even some employers, nagre-rely na talaga sa ganyan. Kasi we all know na mas maganda nga naman yung output ng isang computer, di ba, compare sa manual design, right? So what happens is that guy na graduate ng technology, now he's the boss. And then everyone downline is mga BS graduate. So imagine niyo yung turnaround ng may alam compare dun sa may pinag-aralan lang. You know what I mean? Right? Kasi for example, kahit graduate ka ng BS, for example, if you don't know what you're doing, you're basically an employee, di ba? And for example, kahit graduate ka ng technology, if you know what you're doing, you have an experience and you have as wide knowledge when it comes to matters like AutoCAD or computer-aided drafting, you will be on top, right? So those are the certain scenarios that I want you to take from this thing, right? So CAD is extremely important, especially when it comes to engineering proper, to our profession in all engineering programs, okay? So ayun, to end quote this thing, so it is widely used to design and develop products to be used by consumers. Okay? So just like what I said kanina, if you try to search even sa internet or even walk in dun sa mga engineering firms, ganyan, basta mga nag-hire ng mga engineers, for example, you know, in your part kasi, kagrupo kayo ng ECE, ganyan, di ba? Dun sa mga electronics and everything. And in our parts is kagrupo namin yung architecture, MEEE, ganyan. So, when you try to search for those, for example, firms or companies, isa to sa pinaka ginagamit nila. Okay? So hindi man siya particular sa AutoCAD, but it has the idea that nagpo-fall siya sa computer aided drafting and designing. Okay? So you will know that once you try to search for a job, and then you can see those classifications or qualifications, I mean, na isa sa listing doon is dapat may knowledge kayo sa computer aided drafting. Okay? All right. For the next one, for the next slide, so we're going to discuss the toolbars and then of course the key commands. Okay. So this is quite common when it comes to the computer-aided application, that you need to remember all the toolbars. So we need to label the parts. Everything will be discussed later on as we go further on these slides. And then of course the key commands. So remember, your first activity is you need to redraft the key commands. And I checked some of those files kanina. What you did is just in-screenshot nyo lang and then paste nyo, right? So my instructions before is you need to reformat everything because, di ba, ang useless naman kung i-screenshot mo and then paste mo lang ulit, right? So what is the essence of reformatting that thing, right? So meron namang mga nakasunod ng instructions. So hindi ko siya muna ma-mention right now kasi hindi pa ako tapos mag-check. But the instruction is to reformat everything on that file, right? So you need to read everything. Of course, I don't know kung ni-read nyo yun nung in-screenshot nyo, but that is not part of the instruction to screenshot and then paste to another file, right? So that is the observation that I saw kanina nung nag-check ako ng mga files na na-submit from the activity 1. Okay? So, ayun, yun lang naman yung remarks ko doon. So, I hope for the next following activities, you need to focus on the core or the main instructions that I will be giving every single class. Okay? All right. So, for the next slides, so we're going to discuss the guide to AutoCAD basics. We're going to label the parts. We're going to discuss each of those toolbars, what are the functions, and then what are the common things that you need to remember for the AutoCAD application. Okay? So ito yung startup ng AutoCAD. Okay? So this is basically the preface once you try to open the AutoCAD application. So regardless of the version, this is 2017, for example. So once you try to open the application, this will take like about 2 minutes, ganyan, or even 5 minutes to open. Okay? So kasi pag hindi nyo siya ginagamit ng madalas, hindi nyo ginagamit is, kumbaga nag-i-slip din yung application. So pag ginagamit nyo siya ng madalas, mas bumibilis yung pag-open ng application. And even, of course, nakaka-affect din yung simultaneous na pag-open ng ibang application. So if you're using PowerPoint, ganyan, Word, or even some other apps, of course, it can affect the time that, when it comes to opening this app. Okay? And then, of course, once you try to open the shortcut, ito yung unang makikita nyo later on about the basics. So, makikita nyo yung mga icons na yan. So, makikita nyo yung start drawing. So, later on, I will be showing the application. Okay? Kasi naka-screenshots ito mga ito. And then, next one is, of course, the main frame of the AutoCAD. Right? So we're going to discuss each of the parts or the important parts of this window right here. Okay. So let's start with application menu. So what is the definition of the application menu? So basically, pag tinapat nyo kasi yung mouse nyo dyan sa mga icons na yan or then sa mga buttons na yan, it will show you the definition, right? So papakita ko later on dun sa mismong application. But pag tinry nyo itapat yung cursor or yung mouse point nyo dyan sa may, for example, dito sa may application menu, it will show you the definition. Every single thing dito, mapapakita yung definition niya dun. Ano yung function niya, what are the options, what are the things that you need to know about those buttons. It will show inside the application. Okay? But the application menu, located on the top left, obviously, ayan, makikita niyo dyan, replaces the traditional menu structure that you might be familiar with, previous releases of AutoCAD, right? So, kung nakita na kayo before ng 2015 pababa, just like what I said nung orientation, na iba yung itsura ng 2015 pababa, and then common na yung output ng 2016 pataas, this is basically a different one. Okay? So iba yung iba yung output niya. But the main idea here is of course to act as a main application menu that contains some buttons, right? So kung makikita niyo yung purpose nung application menu ng Microsoft Word, for example, pag pinindot niyo yun, so you can see those save as, exit, and some other application menu as well. So dito siya naka-list. So pag pinindot niyo yan, naka-vertical list yan. Right? And then next button is the quick access toolbar, right? So the quick access toolbar is basically a central location where you can easily get the AutoCAD and, basically parehas sila ng application menu. So what are the things na makita nyo dito sa may application menu? Kumbaga nilabas lang dito sa may quick access toolbar, right? So if you can see here, the button for the what do we call here? The new drawing, right? Save drawing, save as drawing, and then print, right? So makita nyo dito sa may quick access toolbar, okay? So kumbaga meron tayong second option lagi. Yun yung purpose, yun yung ginagawa ng AutoCAD application. Meron siya laging second option. So kumbaga hindi nyo ma-open yung application menu, you have a second option which is the quick access toolbar, okay? Some other buttons as well. So meron siyang second option lagi. Second or even third option. Okay? And then for the next one is the ribbon tab. Okay? So the function of the ribbon tab is, viewing the ribbon in AutoCAD, one or more tabs or panels will appear. Okay? So asan dito yung ribbon tab? If you can see here, yung home, yung insert, annotate, parametric view, manage output, add-ins, H360, Express Tools, featured apps, BIM 360, and performance. So those are the what we call as ribbon tab, right? So if you try to press every single thing of this one, right? So you can see different options from home to insert hanggang dun sa may performance, right? So what is the troubleshooting pag nawala yung ribbon tab? Kasi common common problem na na-experience ng isang user pag while ongoing yung drawing. So this is the troubleshooting. So basically, you need to double click any of those ribbon tabs. Okay? So para mag-appear siya, I think once or twice, and then makikita nyo yung scenarios na mag-open ulit yung ribbon tab na yan. Okay? Kumbaga from minimize to maximize, yun yung ginagawa niya. You just need to double click yung ribbon tab to show these options right here. Yung line, yung polyline, and everything na nakapakita dyan sa taas. Okay? So yun yung troubleshooting pag sa ribbon tab. Okay? And then for the next one is what we call as ribbon panel. So ribbon panel is basically the option pag pinindot nyo yung ribbon tab. Okay? So as you can see from the line, right? So yung from line, yung polyline, circles, yung tab na to from this corner, wait lang lagyan ko ng highlight. Ayan. From this section, kita ba? I think hindi. Need to choose another one. Okay. From this section right here, and so label ko siya. So this is what we call as ribbon panel. Alright. May pen naman ako, wait lang. Ito yung tinatawag nating ribbon panel from this thing. Okay? So yung section na yun. Lahat yan hanggang dun sa dulo. Okay? So yun yung ribbon panel. So those are the options na lumalabas pag pinindot natin yung mga ribbon tabs. Okay? So yung ribbon tabs is basically from home and dun sa annotate, parametric, view, manage, output, add-ins. Right? So magkakaiba ng options yan lahat. So pag pinindot nyo yung mga yan, mayroong mga lalabas na ribbon panel. So yun yung mga options na gagamitin natin. So everything na ginawa nyo dun sa may, or yung mga ni-redraft nyo dun sa may commands is nandito lahat. Kumbaga ito yung mga buttons nila. Okay? Alright, and then the next one is the search bar. Right? So what is the function of the search? So of course, this is for cloud and online CAD software to run in a local browser or through a web or mobile app. Okay? So if we try to search, for example, a command dito, so nakalagay naman dyan type a keyword or phrase. So we can see here through online. So basically, you need to connect this into an internet, of course, for you to search a specific command, right? So ginagamit to pag hindi memorize yung command. Of course, pag nag-search tayo ng mga additional templates, so dito natin siya makita sa may section na yan. Okay? So that's for online purposes. And then for the next one is online services. So it has the same function. Of course, magagamit nyo to pag nakapag-sign in kayo. Okay? So my only advice when it comes to this one is you don't need to sign in your account to use the application. Especially pag crack version yung AutoCAD application nyo. So wag yung isa-sign in yan kasi madidetect nila. And then later on, ibablock nila yan. Just like a fake Windows. Pag nag-install kayo ng fake Windows, di ba? So lalabas yung notification na hindi genuine yung Windows na yon, and then later on pag nag-update it will totally shut down or hindi niyo na siya magamit. So ganun din yung mangyayari dito sa may application na to. So no need to sign in kasi hindi niyo naman kailangan yun pag na full version na yung application. Alright? Okay, and then the next one is exchange the favorites, right? So yung dalawa na yan is just part of the online services. So it's basically pag nagsasave tayo ng mga items, just like templates, ganyan, yung mga keywords, so dito natin siya may enlist dito sa part na yun. Right? Okay, and then for the file tab. So from the word tab, so basically, the function of this is to open a multiple drawings, right? So you can find that on the command line in AutoCAD using the term file tab, right? So sana nakuha nyo yun sa may command. Those are the, to turn on the file tabs with the file tab close. Kumbaga yung mga term na yun is quite common siya, di ba? Kung ano yung definition niya or kung ano yung description niya, yun din yung command code, right? Of course, for example, in this thing, paano ba ito lalabas? For example, nawala, di ba? So you just need to input the term file tab or yung key command file tab. And then, pag close niyo siya, is you just need to input the term file tab close, right? So, kumbaga parang codes lang siya nilalagay natin, di ba? And obviously, code nga siya. So, yun lang yung mga kailangan yung i-remember, okay? So, keep in mind that also control tab will cycle through the open drawings. So, I think napaka ginagamit nyo yun ngayon, yung alt tab or even control tab to shift from Google Forms to other form, di ba? So I know ginagamit nyo yun. So ganun din yung function nyo dito. To cycle the tabs, pwede rin pindutin yung control tab. Okay? And then for the next part is of course the viewport, views, and visual style control. So basically, medyo complex pa yung ibang terms dito. But as you can remember, yung diniscuss nating syllabus natin before, some of these parts will be discussed individually kasi madami siyang bracket, kumbaga wide pa yung term na yan. But the summary of this part right here is to change the viewport. Kung ano yung nakikita natin, right? So the visualization, madaming ano kasi yan eh, madaming, what do we call it here? Madaming visual style control or madami siyang design na pwedeng ilabas dun sa particular drawing. Pwedeng X-ray, pwedeng realistic, pwedeng 3D, pwedeng skeleton lang siya or what we call as wireframe, right? So those are the options na makikita nyo dito sa may portion na to, right? And then other one is the three-dimensional cursor or what we call as rotation section. Dito natin niro-rotate yung subject natin pag nagti-3D na tayo. Okay? So pwede natin itong paikot-ikutin. So yung north, east, southwest na yan, yung may coordinates na yan. As you can see, naka-top view lang siya, di ba? Ibig sabihin, kasi yung dinodrawing natin dyan is default by 2D dimensional. Or I mean 2-dimensional. Okay? So pag ni-rotate natin siya into some other views, ibig sabihin nun, 3-dimensional na yung dinodrawing natin. Okay? So take note that the default view for a 2D is of course top view lang siya. And then some other views right here is considered as 3D. Okay? Na-rotate yan, by the way. And then the next is the UCS icon. Okay? So what is the function of this UCS icon? So acting like as a Cartesian, ano di ba? Cartesian plane or what we call as the simple coordinates of x, y, z. Or makikita nyo dito is x, y, w. Okay? So ito yung ginagamit natin to indicate yung location ng subject natin or yung origin. So same as the idea and math, di ba? Okay? So yun yung function ng UCS icon. So you will realize those functions or yung importance nito later on pag ginagamit na natin siya into an actual activity. So I'm just giving you an insight what are the main functions of these simple buttons right here na una nyong makikita dito sa my application para at least meron kayong idea na yun pala yung function nun, di ba? So pag ginamit natin siya, at least, you know, you already know the work for that. And then, of course, the next one is, wait lang, sorry, next. And then the next part is the model and layout tab. Okay. So what are the function of the model and layout tab? Right. So as you can see here, meron siyang section for model, layout 1, and then layout 2. Right. So yung model tab na yun is basically, ito yung black space dito. Yung maraming dots sa gitna. Right. So yun yung tinatawag nating model section. So this is where the area where we draft our subject or yung drawing natin or yung dine-design natin. Right? And then for the layout tabs or yung layout 1 and then layout 2 na yan, this is where we print our subject. Okay? So dito tayo nag-layout, for example, a certain size of papers, pag A3, A1, or even sa small scale ng paper, yung sa bond paper or yung sa A4, right? So this is where we lay out our drawings sa may section na to. Okay? So meron specific na discussion to dun sa may plotting, di ba? If you remember our syllabus before, we have the chapter about plotting. So this is the section where we're going to focus, okay? And then the next is the drawing area. So this is basically the model tab, right? So yung drawing area na yan, we can call it this as like a space, okay? So what I mean by space is, I mean it, So napakaluwag nung ano na yan, napakaluwag nung area na yan. So infinite yan, I think, right? So kasi hindi nyo mauubos yung area na yan. Kahit anong i-drawing nyo dyan, kahit gaano kalaki yung drawing nyo dyan, magkakasya dyan sa may drawing area na yan. So marirealize nyo yan once you try to open your application and then when you input something, pag zoom out nyo, dot lang yan kahit gaano kalaki. Okay? So yun yung drawing area. And then for the next part, next important part is the coordinates. And then of course the drawing tools, right? So the coordinates is basically partner with the UCS icon. So kumbaga ito, XYZ lang siya. Kumbaga yung generic coordinate yung tinatawag natin sa UCS. Ito naman is yung numerical coordinate. So you can see here that the value from the first cut or yung first comma is 51, for example. And then for the next cut is 8.3. And then the third cut is 0, right? So ibig sabihin kasi na ito, X, Y, Z yan lagi. Hindi pwedeng mauna yung Y, hindi pwedeng mauna yung Z. So laging ang pagkasunod-sunod niyan is X, Y, and Z, right? So for example, yung cursor na to, o yung tinatawag natin yung sa mouse point niya, right? So yan yung nade-detect ng coordinate dito from this UCS icon, right? So pag nagda-draft tayo sa geometry, di ba? For example, so we need to locate the location from X and then Y going up. And then obviously, yung Z, 0 kasi wala naman tayo sa 3-dimensional, right? So may konting math dito sa application na to, 'di ba? So for example kasi ito ginagamit natin when it comes to formal plans eh. Pag nilolocate natin yung certain location, certain point, I mean, yung mga certain point na for example, minark natin yun as boundary 1, boundary 2, boundary 3, right? So yun yung ginagamit natin as specific coordinate, okay? So hindi natin siya pwedeng tansyahin, right? So kumbaga before, nagagawa niyo yung tinatawag nilang common thing or common term na tensyometer, di ba? So dito, hindi pwedeng mangyari yun kasi kahit kahit konting discrepancy, right? Minus to the negative 10 pa yan. So makikita yan at makikita dito sa coordinates na to. Okay? And then, of course, the next thing is the drawing tools. So we use this to, change from to input something in our drawing. For example, isometric, if you know those terms already, isometric, orthographic, and yung grid lines, right? So yung grid lines, yung points. So dito natin siya makikita. So there will be explanation for this pag ginagamit na natin siya. Doon ko na lang siya explain para simultaneous yung explanation dun sa may application para mas makita nyo pa yung mga options dito. Pag pinindot natin, may mga options pa kasi dyan. Okay? So yun muna yung purpose ng drawing tools. So we can use this as a tool basically. And other term for that is kumbaga additional input siya while we are creating some figures like here on a drawing area. Okay? And then the next part is the crosshair. Ito yung pinaka mouse point niya, right? So once you try to use this, so lahat na dyan gagalaw. Lahat na dyan magde-detect yung coordinates, yung UCS, lahat na yan connected pag inagalaw nyo na yung crosshair. Okay? So we can maximize this line right here. So pwede natin yung idulo to dulo, yung vertical and then or even the horizontal part. Okay? Para at least makita natin yung coordinates from other side, di ba? Hindi siya gantong kaliit. So mas advisable kasi yan pag mga large scale din dinadrawing natin, right? So the customization for crosshair will be discussed on the actual application. But this is the mouse point, okay? And then for the next part is the navigational bar, and then the annotation visibility and annotation add scale, okay? So yung navigation bar na yan is basically, we're going to use this if we don't have a mouse. Okay? So as you can see, there are buttons right here na tinatawag nating pan. Right? So pag tinutok nyo yun dun sa may section na yun, yung may kamay, yun yung tinatawag nating pan. To grab our drawing, to move our drawing. Right? So that is the function. But in mouse, we can use only the yung roller niya. Pindutin nyo lang yung gitna ng yan. And then the pan will work, right? So napaka-importante na meron din kayong mouse pag nag-AutoCAD kayo. So napakahirap pag touchpad or even sa touchscreen, right? So hindi siya advisable. So mas better pa rin na meron kayong mouse kasi naka-design yung application na to with a mouse, okay? And then some other buttons right here is to rotate and then even to zoom, right? So pag zoom kasi, roll up lang, zoom na yun and then roll down is zoom out, right? But if you use the manual thing in your touchpads, so ito yung pipindutin nyo. Yung marang may cross dyan and then may magnifying glass. So that's for zoom. And then the other one is the rotation, right? So ginagamit natin to if we are using 3D na, right? So ginagamit natin yan to rotate. But in this case, we are using 3-dimensional WCS right here. Yung may coordinate na north, east, south, west, right? And then for the annotation, visibility, add scale, and scale, of course, it's quite different. Magkakaparehas yung description nila, but it's quite different. Okay? For example, in the visibility, there are things right here na, from the word visibility, there are things right here na tina-turn off natin. For example, in a printing, pag nagpa-plot tayo, may mga section na gusto nating i-delete or may mga section tayo na gusto lang nating ma-retain dun sa ipaprint natin. So these are the options. And then for example, in a scale, right, kung gusto nating paliitin yung drawing natin or gusto nating palakihin based from the original, right? So these are the options that we're going to use later on. So nagpa-partner na to dun sa may layout, right? So partner na yung layout tab and then even yung scale and then yung annotation, right? Okay, and then for the next part is the workspace and then customization. So the workspace acts like a setting of the application. So if you try to click this, you can see the same window dito sa may viewport and views. So may mga makikita kayo ditong viewport and then even yung visual style control. And then especially switching from 2D and 3D, right? So dito natin makikita sa workspace nito. So it's more like a setting from 2D to 3D and vice versa, from 3D to 2D, okay? And then from the customization, yung 3 lines na yan, this is basically, nandito lahat yung nakikita niyong buttons dito. Okay? So pag mga naka-check dito sa customization, ibig sabihin, nandito sa labas, dito sa baba niya. Wait lang, i-label ko. So dito sa baba na to, yung sa may section na yan, yung binilugan ko. Okay? Sa may section na yan, dito lumalabas yung customization. Alright? So, lahat ng nandyan, yung coordinates, yung drawing tools, yung annotation, yung workspace, lahat makikita nyo sa customization. So, if we try to check this into the customization, of course, it will appear here. And then, pag in-uncheck nyo siya, mawawala siya dito. Okay? So, ang daming nating gagamiting buttons na wala pa dito sa default na view ng AutoCAD pag nag-start tayo. So, please be mind na marami tayong gagamitin dyan sa customization. Lahat nung nandyan is nandito sa customization na yan. Okay? Alright, so those are the important part of the AutoCAD frame, right? So, kung ano yung unang nakita nyo upon opening the application. So, those are the common things na ma-experience nyo. But, ang dami pa natin kailangang i-discuss because each of these parts right here na sinabi ko, may kanya-kanya pang explanation yan. Kumbaga, meron pang branches yan na mag-i-spread. Alright? And then, let's proceed here. So for the next line right here, we call this as command window. So at the heart of the AutoCAD, so the command window, which is normally docked at the bottom of the application window, the command window displays prompts, options, and messages, right? So where we can see this. So as you can see here on the sample that I gave to you, wala siya dito, di ba? Tinanggal ko siya kasi natatabunan din siya nung nag-label ako dito. But the main location is right here, below the coordinates. Okay? So makita nyo dyan, medyo magulo na yung screen ko ha. So makita nyo dito siya nakalagay, yung command line na tinatawag natin. Okay? So puro code yung ginagawa ko dyan. Ha? So dyan natin makikita yung command line na nandito sa may part na to. Alright? So ito kumbaga yung pinaka-mouth ni AutoCAD. So what I mean by mouth is dito tayo nag-i-input ng commands na ginawa nyo. Okay? So yung ni-redraft nyo, kaya nga gusto kong at least ma-familiarize kayo kung ano yung mga input natin dyan. Kasi yun yung lahat na gagamitin natin for all of your activities. For example, pag nag-input tayo ng term na UN, so makikita nyo doon sa ginawa nyo, so lalabas lahat dito sa command window yung command na nag-i-start sa UN, as well as pag letter U lang. So lalabas lahat ng commands na nag-i-start from letter U. Right? So napakabilis, diba? Napakabilis ng, kumbaga, hindi natin kailangan i-memorize yung command codes. Kaya nga hindi ko pinamemorize sa inyo kasi nga makikita naman dito agad-agad, right? Basta alam nyo lang yung process and technique how to find out, right? So basically, command window displays prompts, options, and messages. Okay? So what I mean by options right here, for example, tulad nung sabi ko, makikita nyo dito yung unit mode and then even yung hatch, for example, right? So those are the additional options na makikita natin. Or even, pag clinic nyo yung question mark na to, right? So kasi tatanungin niya kayo, for example, alin ba dito yung gusto mong, hindi naman siya magsasalita, but in a computer manner na what are the next step na gagawin mo? Or what are the options that you need to select, right? Kasi may lalabas dyan, for example, display, yes or not, parang mga ganong scenarios, okay? So yun yung mga nilalabas niyang prompts and options, or even yung messages na tinatawag natin. So it will show you here beside the command window. So once you try to input a certain command dito sa may command line, it will show you all the options and even the command codes or yung command na gagamitin nyo all throughout the working area. Okay? So what do we call here? The troubleshooting, pag hindi nyo nakikita yung command window na to, is just control 9. Okay? So sana nabasa nyo to dun sa may code kasi nandun sa shortcut. Okay? So ito yung troubleshooting pag nawala yan. Okay? So press nyo lang yung control 9 and then it will show you again the command window. Okay? And then for the next is the basic shortcuts. Okay? So what are the basic shortcuts that we're going to use? So nandun siya sa isang page, right? So if you remember, this is one of the page that pinagawa ko siya as a first activity. So basically page 2 siya, right? So madaming list ng diba, ng commands na nandun. So naka-roster siya from A to Z, but naka-list dito yung pinaka nagagamit sa lahat, yung basic shortcuts na tinatawag natin. Okay? So later on, I will be showing the application. So dito na pala ako wait lang. Dilipat ako sa kabilang computer. Wait lang. Okay, ayan. So, I do have 2 screens right now. So, focus kayo dun sa may, dun sa may AutoCAD. Okay? Ayan. This is the, common problem sometimes pag nagsabay-sabay yung application na ginagamit nyo. Hindi maiiwasan yung pag-lag talaga. Napaka-common yan. So as you can see, this is my working area specifically for drawing 1, right? So dito ko ginagawa yung mga templates na pinapadrawing ko before and even the exercises na gagawin nyo later on dito sa AutoCAD. Okay? So let's discuss the basic shortcuts here, yung nandun sa isang screen, right? So let's begin with QSave. So where do we find a QSave? For example, here on the application menu, so if you try to press this, oops, nakita ba siya yung mga options? I think hindi. So I need to share this as a whole screen. Ayan. So let's start with the QSave, right? So makita niyo dito sa may ilalim yung command line kanina, okay? So this is where we type our codes, right? For example, QSave, di ba? Just try Q and then makikita niyo na lahat ng options diyan for letter Q. Ayan. So lalabas siya lahat diyan. Ayan. So yung Q quick properties, yung QSave, yung quit, QLeader, QNew, QSelect, right? So dito lalabas lahat ng options na kailangan natin. But specifically, we need to try to save this. Of course, click nyo lang yun. Okay? So yung tulad nung sabi ko kanina, pag tinapat nyo yung mouse point nyo, lalabas dun yung definition niya. And then of course, the shortcut for that. Okay? Yun yung tinatawag nating command prompt dun sa may command line. Right? So if we try to save this, for example, of course, it will automatically save our application pag na-save nyo na. Pero pag gusto nyo i-save as, pag gusto nyo ng bagong file, so pwede rin naman yun. So click nyo lang dito, and then you need to create another file. Okay? So make sure DWG file yan because application in AutoCAD uses DWG file or drawing file. Okay? So yun yung kailangan doon. So why we need to discuss the QSave kasi napaka-basic na niyang application or command, bakit pa natin kailangan i-discuss, alright? So my advice to you, before you start any drawing into your AutoCAD, you need to save first, okay? So parang gagawin niyo na lang is Control S, right? Kasi iniiwasan natin yung scenario na nakarami na kayo ng ginawa tapos hindi pala nakapag-save, right? So, mawawala or hindi lahat nasa save kasi agad-agad kahit naka-auto save yan. I think meron siyang interval kasi na ginagawa. But everything, especially pag mabilis na kayong gumawa, hindi lahat ng ginagawa nyo is nasa save on the spot. Okay? So, you need to save lagi. So, gawin yung practice yun. But I think, advice din yun sa mga sa mga ginagawa nyo sa mga programming subjects nyo na kailangan mag-save lagi. Kasi pag nag-crash, for example, pwedeng possible na hindi ma-retrieve yung ginawa natin or hindi na-save agad-agad. Okay? So, hindi valid yung reason na na-corrupt yan or even hindi nakapag-save kasi yan yung unang diniscuss natin na code. Right? Okay, so lagpasan natin yung iba dito na part pa siya ng mga activities na gagawin natin. Right? So, for example, yung arc, saan ba siya makikita? So, papakita ko lang muna kung saan siya makikita. Okay? So, yung arc na to, so, ang daming options dito, di ba? So, these are the things na i-discuss pa natin individually. What are the functions of the arcs? What are the certain scenarios that uses arcs? Okay? So, nandito siya sa may section na to. Okay? So, basically, it creates an arc. And then, for zoom, it increases and decreases the magnification of the view of the current viewport. Okay? So, just like what I told you kanina, nandito siya sa may navigation. If you can see here, madaming options for zoom. Right? Zoom extends, window, previews, real-time, all, dynamic, scale, center, object, zoom in, and zoom out. Okay? So, ang daming options dito for zoom. But basically, what we're using here is zoom in, zoom out. Okay? So, how do we zoom in, zoom out? Right? So, sabi ko nga kanina, kung may mouse kayo, roll up, roll down lang. But if you are using the conventional type, right? So, click nyo lang dito, and then it will zoom optionally. Right? So, hindi siya totally mag-zoom lagi dun sa desired nating area, but, it will magnify pag clinic natin to, yung mga section na to. Okay? Tulad niyan. And then, other one here is zoom out, for example. Okay? So, ganun siya. Alright. And then, the next one is the WG block, W block. So, writes objects or block to a new drawing file. Okay? So what we are doing right here, yung W block is, of course, if we try to create a certain block. So what I mean by block here is template. Okay? So yung mga template na yan is specifically pre-created na siya na nandyan sa may AutoCAD. Right? So hindi ko muna siya i-discuss kasi I think part pa yan ng lesson 8. Right? So medyo complex pa yung W block na yun. But the main function of this is to to input a existing block na nandyan na sa AutoCAD. Okay? So for example, yung mga created na upuan, ganyan, created na bedroom, created na lampshades, and etc. Right? Okay, next is stretch. So stretches the objects crossed by selection, window, or polygon. Right? For example kasi, if we do have line here, pag nag-line tayo, for example, okay? So may mga figure tayong ginagawa. For example, if we try to stretch, right? So yung line na yan, magkakaroon siya ng stretching points na tinatawag natin, which is the far right far left, and then at the center. Okay? So pag mga curves yan, for example, yung arc kanina, ayan, yung arc. Gawa tayo ng arc, for example. Ayan, gawa ko ng arc, for example, if we select this, okay, so ito yung makikita nating stretch points. Okay? So pwede natin yung i-move into our own wheel kung ano yung gusto nating direction. Okay? So may mga specific ano dyan may mga specific direction tayong gagawin pa. Hindi lang siya basta mailagay lang, for example. Right? So pag gusto natin itong i-stretch, of course, meron tayong mga coordinates na nilalagay. Kung anong degrees, kung ano yung stretching points, ano yung specific distance, for example. So those are the considerations that we need to input here. Hindi natin siya tinatansya. Right? So ano ba yung mga yon? So yun yung pag-aaralan natin pag nag-discuss na tayo ng mga activities natin. For example, yung nakita nyo kanina ng mga figures. Okay? Alright, and then for the explode, so it breaks a compound objects into its components objects. Okay? So meron kasi tayong tinatawag na conventional line. For example, if we do create a box, diba? So gawa ko ng scenario dito. So for example, if we do have a 50-50 box, maglaline lang ako. So for example, yan, mag-input ako ng 60 meters na line, 60, and then another 60, then going up yung 60, right? So, ito yung isa sa example na tinatawag nating components box. What I mean by components is isa-isa yan per line. Okay? And then the other one is a compound line or a compound box. Okay? 60 by 60 siya. Okay? So ngayon yung mga ginagawa ko is just a presentation na hindi pa to necessary na kailangan yung i-follow, right? So I'm just giving you a scenarios. Right? For example, pagtagbihin ko yan, for example ganyan. Okay? So the difference between these two, this square on the right side is a compound. So ibig sabihin dire-diretso yan kahit may border siya. And then the other one is a component. Ibig sabihin hiwa-hiwalay per line. Right? Pag minove ko yung isa, may iwan yung tatlo. Dito, pag minove ko yung isa, masasama yung dalawa. Okay? So those are the difference. So what are the function? What is the function of the explode? Right? So the function of the explode, it makes the compound to a component. Right? So gagawin niyang component yung compound. Kumbaga vice versa yung ganyan. So yun yung ginagawa ni explode. So dito, partner niya si join and group. So as you can see, nandito rin sa list yung join. So joins similar objects to form a single unbroken object. And then the other one is group. It creates and manages saved sets of objects called groups. Okay? So gawin natin yung scenario na yun. So itong component na to, gawin nating compound by using join. For example, so input natin yung J, and then join. Select lang natin yung box na yun, then enter. So as you can see, it will be a compound, right? So ganun yung ginagawa ni join. And then the other one, Control Z ko siya, is group. So gagawin kong group, so select ko yung lahat ng boxes na yun na naka-components, then enter. As you can see, it will be group. Okay? So those are the simple functions na ginagawa ni join and group. So vice versa yung ginagawa ni explode. It will make a group or even joined object into a components, right? Kumbaga binabaliktad lang niya. So gawin natin yung explode. So explode, enter, select natin yung object na yan, and then enter. Kumbaga yung process dito, para lang siyang flowchart, input, process, output. Okay? So yung input natin is yung command, yung process natin is yung prompts na nilalagay natin or sineselect natin dito sa my command line. And then the output is basically the command description kung ano yung naging output niya dito sa my command line. Okay? So ito na yung nangyari. Yung, what do we call here? Yung compound line kanina or yung compound box is naging components na. By using explode, join, and group. Okay? Alright. Next scenario is erase. So, removes objects from a drawing, right? So, napakatrabaho kasi ng erase pag yun pa yung gagawin natin. For example, letter E, di ba? Select natin yung line and then enter. Saka siya mawawala. So, what is the shortcut for erase, for example? So, nandyan na sa keyboard nyo. So, as you can see, if you remember or, if you can notice the delete button dyan sa may keyboard nyo, yun na yung pinaka-simple na offset natin dun sa may explode, ay dun sa may erase. Okay? So select nyo lang yung line na gusto nyo i-delete and then press delete and then it can easily execute the erase. Okay? So yun na yung pinaka-mabilis kesa yung magle-letter E ka pa, execute and then select the line para ma-erase lang. So pwede mo naman nang pindutin yung line mismo and then delete. Right? Okay, yung dim style, skip ko muna yan kasi may part yan, masyadong malawak yung dim style. So that's all about dimension kasi, yung dim style. Right? So let's proceed to circles. So yung circles, nandito rin siya sa may command line. As you can see here, nandito siya sa taas. So madaming parts ng circles, di ba? So yung radius, diameter, 2 points, 3 points, yung tangent, tangent radius, and then yung triple tangent. Okay? So, ang daming function na gagamitin natin dyan sa may circles na to. Lahat ng circles na yan is may mga scenarios or may mga activities na specific lang yung kailangan gawin or kaya niyang gawin. Okay? But basically, this is to create circle. So, just input C dyan sa may command line nyo and then you can easily create a circle. Okay? Alright, so skip natin yung redraw. Okay, so let's proceed to fillet. So, yung fillet, rounds and fillets and edges on objects. Okay? So for example, if we do have here a two line, ayan, gawa ko ng scenario na ganito, for example, and then I want to connect this two lines to arcs. Okay? So gagawa ko ng dome dito, for example. Okay? So ang gagawin niya is mahirap, di ba? Kasi hindi pa natin alam or hindi nyo pa alam, for example, yung specific na arc na gagamitin. So the main shortcut to connect these two lines right here para magkaroon siya ng dome, for example, sa gilid or even some other parts, is fillet, right? For example, letter F natin, select the first line and then second line, and then it will automatically create a object like just like this, okay? And then the other one as well, dun sa other side, pag kinonnect natin from the first line and then second line, it will create the same curvature on the other side. Okay? So, yun yung ginagawa ni fillet. For example, ganito naman. Adjacent lang siya. Ayan, yung ganito. Ayan. So, ang gusto ko dito is i-connect ko siya, these two lines automatically. Kasi ang gagawin natin dyan, for example, i-stretch pa natin yan eh. So, dito pumapasok si stretch, di ba? So, tinatansya, papunta doon. And then the other line, papunta doon, para lang makonect, right? So, paano yung shortcut doon? Yun yung fillet. Okay? So, F, select the first line, second line, and then it will automatically connect the line, right? In a fast way. Okay? So, yun yung function ni fillet. And then, of course, the view. So, nandun siya sa taas. So, it says naman yung same description yan. Saves and restores named views, camera views, layout views, and preset views. Okay? So yung text, basically create a text. For example, if we try to input mtext here, or just text, so the difference between mtext and text is, yung text kasi, single line lang siya. Yung mtext is multi-line. So pwede tayong makapag-create ng paragraph, ng sentences inside our drawing. Okay? So yun yung difference nito. But in here, I will be using multi-line text and then dun kayo mag-input ng text na gusto nyong ilagay. Right? For example, any text na maisip nyo, for example, mag-input kayo ng word dyan sa drawing nyo, ganyan. So, ganyan lang siya maglalagay. And then, of course, ayan, sobrang liit nyo, di ba? So, ang gagamitin natin dyan, is the double click lang yun and then lalabas dito yung size dun sa taas, right? So same idea siya nung ano, di ba? Nung word. So mag-add lang kayo ng value dito, for example 5, right? And then enter and then it will make your text bigger, okay? So pag niliitan nyo doon, of course, obviously, delete din yung text. Okay? So depende yan sa scale na ginagamit natin. Kung 1:1, 1:100. So it will be given doon sa mga specific activities na ibibigay ko later on. Okay? So dito natin siya ilalagay. But mtext is to simply input text inside your drawings. Okay? Alright, next one is group. So yung group kanina is tapos na together with the explode and join. And then yung block is same as W block. Right? And then yung hatch. So ang ginagawa ng hatch is nag-fill, and so nakalagay dyan, fills an enclosed area or selected objects with a hatch pattern, solid fill, or gradient fill. Okay? So dito tayo nag-input, for example, ng mga inclusive patterns dyan sa drawing natin. Okay? So pag nag-enter ako ng hatch, for example, dyan sa my command line, and then I input here a certain object, so dito nyo makikita sa taas yung mga available hatch. Okay? So maghanap tayo dito ng interesting. For example, yung gravel, di ba? So common to. So makikita nyo dito, yung mga ganyang patterns, di ba? It's more like a stones, right? So pwede naman natin siyang ma-change. So it depends on the design na ginagawa nyo, right? So dito nyo siya makakita. Yung zigzag, users, steel, and some other fonts as well. Kung colored naman, right? So pwede nyo gamitin yung mga to. Okay? Ayan. So pwede yan. Yung kulay blue and yellow na yan, default kasi yan, but you can change it naman. Okay? So pwede nyo ibahin yung kulay dito. So may section na to. Depende sa kung ano yung gusto nyong kulay. Okay? So, hindi lang yan yung hatch pattern na pwede nyong ilagay. So, ang dami siyang option dito. Double-click nyo lang yun, and then it will show you here everything. Alright? Okay, next is move. So, yung move na yan is basically ito, yung tinatawag nating pan. Right? But this is for moving the drawing area. Okay? Pag ginamit kasi natin yan, pwede nating ma-move yung drawing natin from right to left or any direction. But what I mean by move here is, of course, by placing your object from a certain point. Okay? So, for example, I want to move this on the top of this circle. Okay? So, move ko lang yan. I-input nyo lang yung M dun sa may command line. Highlight. Ito yung process. Then, enter. Process din yun, and then tsaka nyo i-move doon. Okay? So, yun yung process niya. Alright? So, pwede nyo ilagay down specifically on the top of the circle. So, those are the simple scenarios na pwede nating ma-relate sa move. So, any objects right here, any lines, pwede na nating gamitin yan. Okay? Yung move na yun. Right? Okay. Next is insert. Skip mo na yan kasi parehas yun ng redraw. And then yung offset, right? So creates a concentric circles, parallel lines, and parallel curves. Okay. So 130 na pala. So yung offset na yan, for example, if we try to create parallel lines tulad nung ginawa ko dito. Okay? So mag-offset ako, di ba? So same scenarios, for example, right? So ganito lang siya. Kumbaga magmo-multiple offset ka, yung tinatawag nating multiple horizontal lines. Okay? So pwede rin siyang vertical. Pag vertical naman, same scenarios. Okay? So click and then drag lang siya. Click and then drag by simply inputting the command offset. Okay? So pwede rin siya sa circles, by the way. Pwede rin siya sa curves. Ayan. Pwede siyang gawin. And then pwede rin siya sa curves. Ayan. Pwedeng lumiit. Pwedeng lumaki. Ayan. So, okay, logo ng ABS-CBN. Okay, so that's the function of offset. And then, of course, line. This is basically what we're doing right now. So, obviously, line yan lahat. So, letter L lang siya, and then you can now start line. Right? Pero hindi lang siya basta line na. Ang dami pa nating i-discuss when it comes to these matters. So, pinapakita ko lang siya, yung mga preview niya, kung ano yung mga magagamit natin na commands na agad-agad. Okay? So that's how you create lines. And then pan, so adds a parameter with grips to a dynamic block definition. So ito yung kamay dito, yung tinatawag nating pan. So it moves the object from one side to another. Okay? So ito yung kumbaga grabbing point or gripping point ng AutoCAD to move your drawing area into a certain points. Okay? Kasi hindi naman pwede na nandito ka lang sa side, di ba? So basically, you need to put your drawings into center or even some other parts of your screen, right? So that is the function for the pan. Okay? So ayun, I think gahol na kasi tayo sa time. So itutuloy natin to sa Monday, right? So basically, your activity for today, yung ano muna, yung activity number 2. Supposedly, I will be giving 2 activities sana eh. Yung activity number 2 and then 3, which is basic shortcuts. But since ang dami ko pang i-discuss para maintindihan nyo pa lalo yung kung ano yung gagawin nyo doon, so hold muna yung nakapost doon na activity number 3. Okay? So ang gagawin nyo muna is yung activity number 2. So I need to explain that first. Okay, so proceed tayo dun sa may share ko lang yung screen doon. Ayan. So, ang gagawin nyo lang muna dito is yung activity number 2. So, basically, nandito yung presentation natin kanina. So, you can browse here what we discussed. Right? So, ito yung mga yon. You need to browse this as well kung na-late kayo kanina or even hindi kayo na tapos. Kasi nandito pa lang tayo sa slide na to. So, ang dami pa nating hindi discuss. Oh. So, dito muna kayo sa may activity number 2. Okay? So, this is more like an objective activity. So, you just need to answer some questions right here. Okay? So, nandito naman na yung questionnaire. Oops, di pa siya. Ayan. Nandito yung questionnaire. So, you need to answer these questions. Right? So, you can use Word. Right. So, naka-PDF to by the way. So, convert nyo na lang para makapag-type kayo dito ng text just in case wala kayong PDF editor. Right? So, hindi naman necessary na kailangan yung isulat. So, nandun sa instruction na optional yung sulat. Right? So, it's up to you. So, nandito naman yung general instructions. Ayan. Ayan. So, naka-sequence yan na. So, I did a sequence type of instructions right here para at least gawin yung checklist. Okay? So, what I mean by here is, for example, pag nagawa nyo na yung sequence 1, so pwede nyo nang i-cross out para make sure kayo na na-follow nyo lahat ng binibigay kong instructions. Okay? Especially sa mga file names, kumbaga kung ano yung dapat i-input, ano yung mga dapat gawin, and then ano yung mga dapat hindi gawin. Right? So, this activity is an objective type. For example, you just need to answer those questions. So basically, para siyang, obviously, essay, right? So para siyang ganun. Actually, ganun siya. So you just need to answer this, right? So this is part of our lesson. So last week dapat to, pero nag-U-week kasi, so na-move na naman to activity na to, right? So you just need to answer these questions, and then you need to turn in again into the same link na kung saan kayo nagpasa ng activity 1. Okay? So naka-sequence na yun doon from activity number 1 hanggang dun sa uli. So yun yung i-accomplish nating mga activities. Okay? So again, ang gagawin nyo lang dito for this week or for today, is activity number 2. So we need to discuss more about lesson 3 for you to create activity number 3. But you can start practicing, right? So if you are willing to practice, right? So feel free to do that. Okay? So application niyan, computer niyan, you can do whatever you want, right? Just make sure na kaya nyong ibalik pag nag-default na tayo dun sa AutoCAD. Okay? So hindi nyo muna gagawin yung activity number 3. Ang gagawin nyo muna for today or for this time is yung activity number 2. So you just need to answer this questionnaire right here. So use Word, PDF editor, or whatever application para ma-fill up nyo to using this format. Okay, and then ito yung same file na kailangan yung i-turn in doon ulit sa link. Alright? Okay, and then for Monday, obviously Monday, itutuloy natin to para magawa nyo na yung first activity dun sa may AutoCAD application mismo. Yun na yung gagawa kayo ng mga figures dun sa may AutoCAD app. Alright? Okay, so we're done. Any questions? May questions pa kayo or anything? Any clarifications? Ano ba? Wala naman.
Wala naman po, sir.
Okay, again na, reminder ko, about instructions. So that is, napaka important nun. So, yun yung observation ko dun sa may first activity. Okay, so sana dun sa mga next activities, kung ano yung instruction dito, may general instructions naman doon. So please read and understand first before you create your activities. Kasi masasayang lang yun. Okay? But I mean, hindi naman siya sayang yung effort kasi may points pa rin. But, it has a big impact kasi hindi na-follow yung instructions.
Sir, dapat, pwede po bang digital doon sa first activity po? Yun po ba?
Yung first activity, pinaano ko talaga yun, purely digital. So, sinabi ko nga na pwede nyong i-copy-paste yung text but not actually screenshot yung buong page and then paste to another file, right? So, what I want you to do before ng activity 1 is to reformat everything para at least makita nyo every text, diba? Right? Kasi originally, that activity is part of the manual drawing kasi nga, prerequisite nyo yung drawing 1, so dapat pinapasulat ko yun. But since shortened yung semester natin, so I decided for you to, good na i-copy-paste na lang, just make sure na nabasa niyo yun. But what you did, some other classmates is, ni-screenshot lang and then pinaste dun sa ibang file. So that's useless, di ba? So yun yung concern ko dun, ng activity 1. So,
Sir, pwede pa magpasa? Update po ako.
I-submit nyo na lang kung gusto nyo gawin ulit. And then for the next activity, again, may general instructions doon. Pakibasa nyo lang din what are the options, ganyan, ano ba yung pwedeng optional na pwedeng gawin. Okay? But again, pwede kayong gumamit ng Word or PDF editor para masagutan nyo. Okay? So wala namang case yun. Alright. So, any more questions? Concerns? Hindi na kasi dito. Wala na kayong question? Okay, so since wala kayong question, mag-attendance muna ako. Say present na lang and then open your cam for the validation of your attendance. Right? So this will be a quick one. Abadiano, Diego. Dito ba to? Tama. Abadiano, Diego. Charles Alticen.
Sir, present, sir.
Prince Andam.